are saying to the human race, for the first time, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
We're talking about the biggest secret in human history.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And that was Seven's Ross Coulthart in a 40-minute special on America's News Nation cable channel back in June. Coulthart was presenting a world-exclusive TV interview with David Grush, the US military whistleblower, who told Congress in July that a top-secret US government program had recovered alien spacecraft and bodies. And here is Coulthart again in a 7 News special recorded before Grush gave his evidence.
There has been a massive, long cover-up lasting 80-plus years inside the American government. There has been a concealment of retrieval of non-human spacecraft. There's been a concealment of the existence of multiple species of non-human intelligence to this planet. Incredible as it may seem, the United States government are in possession not only of non-human technology, craft and other technology, they're also in possession of alien bodies.
Coulthart is a one-time Gold Walkley winner with distinguished career on Four Corners and 60 Minutes. So how could a journalist with his credentials be convinced by Grush's extraordinary claims? And by his assertion that others have been murdered to stop the secret getting out?
Yes, it's confronting. It's an extraordinary allegation. I, too, have had a lot of trouble believing it. When I heard the things that Dave Grush told me, I was shocked. And yes, in some cases, I was scared. I still am.
Coulthart's 7 News report on YouTube has racked up 1.8 million views and thousands of comments like this.
This is the best piece of news reporting that I've ever seen.
Ross Coulthart is a hero to me.
Ross is the greatest journalist of all time.
So how has David Grush got the world's best reporter to believe? Grush is a former US intelligence officer who was on a Pentagon UFO task force and did have high security clearance. But he has produced no documents, no photos, no spacecraft and no bodies to prove his claims. And when asked for detail, Grush says the UFO program is so secret that even Congress can't be told.
Have you seen the spacecraft?
I have to be careful to describe what I've seen firsthand and not in this environment, but I could answer that question behind closed doors. Yeah.
And have you seen any of the bodies?
That's something I've not witnessed myself.
David Grush did not produce evidence to Ross Coulthart in his TV interview either. And as science writer Mick West and others have pointed out, none of the whistleblower's claims are first-hand.
Other people have told him things and he's trusting these other people. We need to get to those other people. Who are the people who are telling him things? What did they tell him? Where are the alien bodies? Where are the alien craft?
So, if no hard evidence has been provided, what is fueling the believers? First is that while NASA and the Department of Defense have issued clear denials about secret UFO retrievals and alien contact, the White House has been reluctant to do so.
Does such a program exist, and do you believe that the American people deserve to know if it does?
I have no information on that to provide for you today, one way or the other.
Second is that the US government recently admitted that some UFOs, or UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena, as seen in these videos from US Navy pilots, are sightings that can't be explained, and the Pentagon is taking them seriously. But can we therefore conclude that the objects are alien spaceships? Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson says the answer is no.
If we've been visited by aliens, why did they only visit government agencies? Why? Really? Really? Do you realize 1 million people are airborne at any given moment because on jetliners, and there's 6 billion smartphones in the world? If there was an alien invasion, I think it would be nicely crowdsourced with high definition, high resolution images and video of that happening.
And some in Congress on the committee that interviewed Grush are equally sceptical.
The concept that an alien species that's technologically advanced enough to travel billions of light years gets here and somehow is incompetent enough to not survive Earth or crashes is something that I find a little bit far-fetched.
Even more far-fetched is David Grush's response that aliens may not need to cross the galaxy, and the Milky Way is a mere 100,000 light years across, because they may be in another dimension and have been here all the time. And stretching credulity further is Grush's claim to Coulthart that a UFO which crashed in Italy in 1933 was shipped in secret to the US after the war with help from Pope Pius XII.
So the Vatican was involved?
Yeah, and told the Americans what the Italians had, and we ended up scooping it.
So let me be very clear about this. You're saying that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, they know about the existence of non-human intelligence on this planet?
Certainly.
And Grush's evidence for that? As usual, nothing that he can show. But once again, Coulthart has indicated that he believes the story, telling News Nation,
if Mr. Grush is telling the truth, and I'm told he is, it's a difficult thing for the Vatican to admit without the US concurring.
Coulthart is now the media's go-to man on UFOs. He has written a book called In Plain Sight, and he also hosts a popular podcast called Need to Know with an American UFO truther called Bryce Zabel. Both have brought him worldwide fame, and earlier this year he told his podcast listeners,
I've never, ever in my career in journalism have had a response such as what we're having at the moment. Every morning for the last week, I've been waking up to hundreds of new emails, literally in some cases, thousands of new messages.
Coulthart says he started out a sceptic about alien visitors, as any journalist should. But it's clear he's now a passionate convert. And he says he doesn't care if we don't share his faith.
I don't care if people say this is crazy. I don't care if people laugh or ridicule it, because I know from the sources that I've spoken to, this story will eventually come out.
We asked Ross Coulthart if and why he believes that aliens have visited Earth and that spacecraft and bodies have been recovered. We also asked him if he has lost his journalistic objectivity. In a detailed response, he said it was totally false to say there is no evidence to support Grush's claims.
What I am doing as a journalist is investigating those allegations, and I have verified them. There is first-hand evidence, and it has been presented under oath to the Intelligence Community Inspector General in private hearings. My belief is irrelevant.
So, what is that first-hand evidence? Well, it seems it's on a need-to-know basis. In other words, it can't be revealed because it's all classified. He also said the mainstream media have failed us on this story. So, has Coulthart gone crazy, or is he a visionary? You be the judge, and you can read his full statement on our website. And now, to one in the eye for climate sceptics, and especially the ones at News Corp, whose editors splashed this on the front page of The Australian last September.
No emergency shown in climate records. An international study of major weather and extreme events has found no evidence of a climate emergency in the record to date.
That story from Environment editor Graham Lloyd relied on an obscure 8-month-old study published in a scientific journal called the European Physical Journal Plus. Media Watch said at the time its claims were garbage and pointed out that 3 of the 4 authors were well-known climate sceptics, something the Oz did not tell us. But the study was manna from heaven for the folks at Sky News, including Chris Smith, several months before he was sacked for disgracing himself at the network's Christmas party.
No evidence of a climate emergency in the records to date. No evidence. The study analysed data from heat, drought, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes and ecosystem productivity and could not plot a trend either up or down.
Sky's Chris Kenny also celebrated the study's findings with the strapline "Climate Emergency Hysteria Debunked" and told Graham Lloyd,
"This study does disprove the idea that we're living in a catastrophe already."
It certainly does, Chris.
But, as we said at the time, the study proved no such thing. And last week came confirmation that we were right.
Top science publisher Springer Nature said it has withdrawn a study that presented misleading conclusions on climate change impacts. The study had drawn positive attention from climate skeptic media.
Publisher Springer Nature reviewed the article after complaints from leading climate scientists, and on Wednesday published a retraction announcing,
"The editors-in-chief no longer have confidence in the results and conclusions reported in this article. The editors-in-chief have retracted this article."
And it gets worse. As part of the review, the authors were invited to write an addendum to address claims of cherry-picking facts. But it seems not even that was worth printing, with the publisher saying,
"The addendum was not suitable for publication and that the conclusions of the article were not supported by available evidence or data provided by the authors."
So, will The Australian be doing the same, given its article is still online? We asked the editor, Michelle Gunn, and then her deputy, but we did not get a reply. Instead, the paper has published a news story by Graham Lloyd, arguing that the discredited study has fallen victim to a heated campaign and should not have been retracted. And is that any surprise? In the last few weeks, we've seen wildfires raging in Canada and Greece and heat records being smashed around the world, with July reportedly the hottest month ever. Yet 10 days ago, Chris Kenny was running this opinion piece in The Australian, calling for fathers to better protect their children from climate hysteria and claiming
this catastrophism is calculated community child abuse.
Child abuse? It really does beggar belief. But now, let's go to
the cook, the diners, and one giant mystery.
Yes, the giant mystery is one that's left 3 people in Victoria dead and another fighting for his life.
All after a mushroom meal. And it's raised more questions than answers.
But luckily, Nine's Liz Hayes is on the case, looking for answers in her tabloid TV sleuthing programme, Under Investigation.
It's the fatal feast.
A family lunch turned deadly.
That's got the whole world
claimed 3 lives.
Was it accidental?
Desperate for answers.
I'm devastated. I love them.
In a special Under Investigation...
Was it an innocent tragedy or was it a premeditated murder?
The Mushroom Mystery.
Nine bills the show as a gripping investigative programme that puts a spotlight on unsolved crimes and mysteries. And when you have a fatal lunch, 3 dead diners and 1 person of interest, you're looking at the perfect case. But before we could hear all about
confessions,
the food dehydrator seized by police,
revelations and deadly poison.
It was not just one mushroom.
we got a Liz Hayes publicity blitz to sell the sizzle, with multiple interviews across Nine's TV and radio platforms. And the sales pitch went like this.
How many of these mushrooms do you need to eat to die, basically? How would they get into a beef Wellington, for example?
It's a Saturday gathering, lunch, family, and before you know it, 3 are dead.
I think whenever we can put ourselves in a situation like that, you're sitting down and that's the last thing you might expect, that you would die.
It sure is. So, what did we learn from Nine's hour-long deep dive into the fatal lunch? Not much. And did its 5-person panel, including 2 former detectives, a clinical psychologist, a toxicologist and a fungi expert, crack the case? No, it did not. But we did learn about the difficulties of cooking a beef Wellington, the fatal dish reportedly served at the Sunday lunch.
It's a challenging choice for any home cook.
If you intended to mask the fact that there was mushrooms in a dish, that would probably be a fairly good way of doing it, yeah?
And we learned that deadly mushrooms are indeed deadly.
The death-capped mushroom is a ruthless killing machine.
And then slowly but consistently your liver literally dissolves.
And what about the cook, Erin Patterson, which is what viewers really wanted to know, given she's the only person of interest named by police.
She may well not have done anything wrong, but she may well also be a person of interest or a suspect.
Hardly an insight. And on it went, with Nine's lawyers ensuring that one ingredient was always in the mix, that police have not charged Erin with anything.
She has been named as the person of interest, but only because she was the cook. And as police pointed out, it doesn't mean she is guilty of a crime.
Or, as Liz Hayes went on to say, a careless cook does not make a murderer. And how did the show rate? Well, despite all the hype, it only pulled in 378,000 Metro viewers and was beaten on the night by Hard Quiz and Auntie's reboot of Mother and Son. Maybe that's a sign that the media's and public's insatiable appetite for this story is waning at last. And finally, to a lot of people getting cross about the Voice to Parliament referendum and a revelation that has the no camp
ticked off the new referendum rules, causing backlash. Will a tick or a cross be accepted?
The answer to that is simple, as 10 News pointed out.
A tick may be accepted as a yes, while a cross won't count as no.
That's because we often use a cross to check a box. And is this rule new? Absolutely not. But that didn't stop the Daily Mail fuming on Thursday about
the sneaky trick that could stop your vote from counting in Anthony Albanese's Voice referendum.
And the same sentiment was being trotted out on 2GB, with Ben Fordham telling his listeners he smelled a rat.
That sounds dodgy. If you're going to count the ticks, you've got to count the crosses, don't you? Otherwise, the yes camp has an advantage.
To which his next guest, former PM Tony Abbott, agreed.
I certainly are urging people to vote no, but the problem with all of this is that there's a suspicion, Ben, that officialdom is trying to make it easier for one side.
Taking the next shift on 2GB, Ray Hadley also called it bullshit and lined up the current opposition leader to rail against the unfairness of it all.
At every turn, it just seems to me that they're taking the opportunity to skew this in favour of the yes vote when Australians just want a fair election, not a dodgy one, and I don't think we should have a process that's rigged.
And over on Sky News that night, they were singing a similar tune and using the rigged word.
You know, everywhere you look now, the game seems rigged against the no campaigners in this referendum for a voice.
By the end of the week, the absurd fury over ticks and crosses was front-page news across the News Corp tabloids. And on Nine's Today Show, Carl Stefanovic was into the fray, warning of...
Fresh drama on the voice front this morning. Revelation is the Electoral Commission will allow a tick to be recorded as yes, but a cross will not be recorded as a no.
A revelation? Hardly. The AEC said in a statement, this rule has always been applied in referendums since 1988 and is not new at all. Adding that the issue of ticks and crosses is likely to be a factor in fewer than 1 in 100 votes, with 99 in 100 who are asked to write yes or no doing what they are told. So, what an irresponsible media scare that was, creating outrage and confusion for no reason. That's all from us for tonight. You can read statements from the AEC and Ross Coulthart on our website. Don't forget Media Bites on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram. But for now, till next week, goodbye.